AI is going to destroy the lives of billions of people in the next 2 to 3 years, and there's no one who can stop it. Listen, that is not science fiction, and it's definitely not some wild prediction for the distant future. That is a stark, immediate warning from Professor Scott Galloway, right out of a recent interview broken down by the AI Upload channel. He's sounding a massive alarm on the arrival of artificial general intelligence, or AGI, and he genuinely believes the fallout is right around the corner. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're objectively unpacking these pretty dire predictions from the source material. We're going to examine the actual, very real mechanics of how AI is already restructuring the workforce, take a critical look at the tech leaders steering this massive ship, and, most importantly, find out how you can actually protect yourself and your career in the face of this unprecedented technological shift. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the AGI job threat. Second, the silent hiring freeze. Third, the tech CEO illusion. Fourth, the 1% divide. And finally, adapting and regulating. Section 1, the AGI job threat. Unpacking the 24-month timeline to widespread automation. You know, there's this persistent myth out there that AGI is a problem for the next generation. Well, Galloway completely shatters this timeline. Based on recent demonstrations of humanoid robots, and we're talking about robots that can already walk, grab objects, physically move things around, he argues we are literally within 2 years of a robot having the dexterity to do something as nuanced as making a cup of coffee. We can't just close our eyes and say, oh, it won't happen. The disruption isn't decades away, it's practically tomorrow. And to see where this impact hits first, the source highlights some really specific, massive industries. Take long-haul trucking, for example. Waymo and Tesla's self-driving tech, it's advancing incredibly fast, and this matters immensely because trucking is the biggest employer of non-high school graduate males in the entire United States. It is a massive pillar of employment. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have legal review. Galloway notes that he used to pay young lawyers $400 to $500 an hour to review contracts, and now he just instructs his team to ask an AI, like Claude or ChatGPT, to pretend it's a $1,200 an hour employment lawyer, review the document, and redline it. Human output is literally being matched across the board. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how companies are restructuring from the inside out. Let's talk about the story of Molly the analyst from our source. Traditionally, right, an investment fund might hire 5 junior analysts to screen inbound interest and sniff out opportunities. But today, they only need Molly. And why is that? Because Molly is completely empowered by 2 AI agents running on Mac Minis. She uses them to screen interest, proactively search the market, and score opportunities all by herself. One empowered worker armed with AI has permanently eliminated the need for multiple junior roles. Section 2, the silent hiring freeze. Why stable employment numbers are a lagging illusion. So you might be thinking, if AI is taking all these jobs, why doesn't the economic data look like a total catastrophe yet? Well, the source argues that employment numbers look stable on paper purely because they are lagging. Existing employees? Sure, they're currently being retained. But beneath the surface, job postings have dropped sharply. The reality of the job market is shifting so rapidly, and it's completely hidden in plain sight because the casualties are incredibly specific. We are seeing fewer junior roles and just vanishing entry-level opportunities. Fresh graduates entering the market this year, they are the ones truly feeling the heat. And the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that these jobs aren't disappearing through loud headline-making layoffs. They're just simply never being created in the first place. The whole system looks healthy in aggregate data, but the foundational rungs of the career ladder are quietly being pulled up. So the crucial point is that AI fundamentally raises the bar for justifying any new headcount. The source gives us another stark example with executive assistants. In the past, an executive pool might require 10 general executive assistants to function. Now, you need 3. You need 1 powered by AI to handle all the travel, 1 to handle all the complex scheduling, and 1 physical person to actually meet people at the door. You are essentially trading 10 general roles for 3 highly specialized AI-powered ones. Section 3, the tech CEO illusion. Let's look at the extreme financial incentives driving the AI race. To really understand why this technology is being pushed so aggressively despite all these glaring risks, we have to look at the architects themselves. Galloway offers a deeply critical view of the tech leaders building these systems, challenging the whole societal narrative that treats these innovators as saviors. The source frankly states, the new Jesus Christ, if you will, are these tech CEOs. They do not have our best interests at heart. Galloway argues that as attendance to religious institutions declined over the decades, society kind of replaced that void with a mystical reverence for technology and the people who create it.
But these CEOs are not here to save us. They serve a single defining function in our capitalist system: to do whatever is legally required to get earnings up by 1 cent per share every single day.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because Galloway actually maps out a highly predictable 3-phase life cycle for these tech executives. It all starts in phase 1, the good guy or the innovator. They're friendly, they're literally asking Congress for regulation, seeming deeply empathetic to the public. But inevitably, they enter phase 2, maximizing shareholder value, where they must secure market dominance at all costs. And finally, they reach phase 3, obfuscating regulation. The source literally calls this the journey from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, noting that this transition seems to get shorter and shorter with every new tech boom. The source specifically points to major figures like OpenAI's Sam Altman and Anthropic's Dario Amodei. It argues that they are constrained by incentives that absolutely force them to prioritize corporate dominance over our safety. And the critique goes even further, suggesting these leaders are often traditionally insulated white males who have never actually experienced systemic victimization. Because of this, the source claims, they totally lack the intrinsic fear necessary to build proper safeguards. They're essentially playing a high-stakes video game with the public's future just to win the AI race. Section 4, the 1% divide. The modern wealth gap fueling the pursuit of billions. So why play this high-stakes game? Why is the push for billions so incredibly intense? Well, the explainer source argues it comes down to the extreme, almost incomprehensible delta in lifestyle between the middle class and the ultra-wealthy today. Decades ago, the gap between the middle class and the rich just meant flying coach versus business class, or maybe driving a Ford versus a Cadillac. Today, the 99% experience means flying Spirit Airlines or suffering the humiliating, devastating trauma of facing a major illness while underinsured. Now compare that to the modern 1% experience. They bypass commercial airports entirely for fractional jets like the G7. For healthcare, they have concierge services delivering medicine to their door in 2 hours, at-home NED treatments, and blood tests analyzed quarterly by PhDs in Norway just to predict their cancer risks. It is almost absurd. Galloway's argument is that the bottom 99% of Western society is essentially being optimized and monetized simply to fund this unbelievable, godlike lifestyle for the 1%. The incentive to become a billionaire is just too great to ignore. Section 5. Adapting and regulating. How to protect your career and our society. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we finally get to the actionable solutions. We've covered the stark warnings and the systemic issues, but how do we actually navigate this? We need a two-pronged approach: personal adaptation and societal regulation. Galloway provides a very practical personal survival strategy. Remember this rule: AI is not going to take your job. Someone who understands AI is going to take your job. So here is your 3-step action plan. Step 1, keep a second screen open on your desk that is dedicated purely to large language models. Step 2, port every digital task you receive into that AI screen to see how it handles it. Step 3, play and experiment constantly. Look, as we get older, the part of our brain that effortlessly understands new technology starts to fade. You have to actively force yourself to use it, update your skills, and make sure you stay on the right side of this trade. But here's the reality: personal adaptation just isn't enough. We desperately need societal protection too. And the source makes it unequivocally clear: we absolutely cannot rely on tech CEOs to protect us. Their job is profit. Our job as citizens is to elect officials who will actually implement strict guardrails. The source uses some great historical precedents to make this point. Without government regulation, tobacco companies would probably still be marketing cartoons to 12-year-olds, and manufacturers would still be pouring mercury directly into our rivers. We need government agencies actively testing AI to ensure it isn't being used to surveil or harm us. And that brings us to our final, defining question based on today's source material. Will you be the one replaced by AI, or the one regulating and using it? The 24-month clock is ticking loudly. The technology is rapidly advancing, and the financial incentives pushing it forward are completely unstoppable. You must take immediate action to build your own AI literacy while remaining deeply structurally critical of the systems and the leaders building it. Get that second screen open today and start paying very close attention to who you elect tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.